Hello, everyone. I'm so glad to be here with you today. I'm so glad to have Nicola with me for Fireside Chat. Before we start, I would like to introduce myself quickly. Here's a bit of my background. Um, I'm now 16 years with Nestlé in different functions and currently leading the global media and partnership work we do at Nestlé. And prior to that, I was experiencing 16 years on the agency side, 10 years in a creative agency, and then 6 years managing a media agency. And at the right hand side, you can see a bit what I enjoy. So I'm enjoying eating, skiing, trekking, walking the dog, spending time with my family, friends, with good food, drinks, and music. And all in all, I would say I'm trying to balance my life in job and business. So with this, Nicola, a very warm welcome from Nestle. And thank you so much for taking the time to join us here. First question is about your background. Can you give a bit of your business career and explain how it all started and how your current job is composed?
Yeah, so Tina, it's so great to be here, and hello Nestle, and Tina, congratulations to you on your recent success at Nestle. Thrilled for you, and thrilled for Nestle as well. So I grew up in Manchester, England. If anybody here on listening today is from Manchester, that's my hometown. And then I spent over 20 years working in agencies, a bit like you, Tina. And then in 2013, I got a call from a much smaller company called Facebook saying if I wanted to become the head of Europe, Middle East, and Africa. And it was an absolute opportunity that I jumped at. And so for nearly the last 10 years, I was running Europe, Middle East, and Africa. And then earlier this year, I was asked if I would like to consider taking on the global business. And so I did. I jumped in and I moved to New York, which is where I'm speaking to you from today. And it's been the most extraordinary adventure ever since. So that's a little bit about me and my background.
And thank you so much for sharing. I still remember when you took over the European leadership role. We in these times we met somewhere in Germany. You know, it was also early time for us with Facebook. At that time, you were really young and emerging as a platform. And this is, I think, a perfect bridge to my first question on last year when we spoke here at the event. You were still on the Facebook, and today you are Meta. So can you tell us a bit about this change and also why Meta made that change?
Yeah, super happy to do that. And you're right. Since the last conference, it's been a very exciting 11 months. And I think, to the people on the call today, the marketeers, you'll understand from a brand architecture perspective why it made sense to change the name. Because, when I joined Facebook almost a decade ago, it was just Facebook. It was a single app. That's where the company started 17 years ago. But since then, it's grown into a whole family of apps and services. So we've got Facebook and we've got WhatsApp, we've got Instagram, we've got Workplace, we've got Quest. And there was a lot of confusion around, the company name, the individual brands, etc. So that was the first part. But then where we got to the name really signals our long-term focus on building for the metaverse, because we see tremendous possibilities with this new platform. And while it might seem like a bit of a new concept for us, I know it shocked a lot of people when we did it. It's actually not a new narrative. It's a sort of like you guys, where you might branch out into new product lines, but you're still the good food, good life company. You believe in the power of food to be able to enhance lives. And that's the same for us, because we've always been a social technology company. And we really just see the metaverse as being the next logical progression of the internet. And it's a much more immersive version of social interaction. And what you basically see, if you look back over the history of tech, is that every 15 years or so, there emerges a whole new computing platform. And what we found is that people, when that happens, are always wanting to be able to express themselves in the most enriched ways that they can communicate. So back in 2004, it was all about text. Then we got, these super phones that had computers, and that became the next medium where we had photos. And then the computing power of the phone got better, and the mobile networks got better, and therefore we got video. And then we've now got reels and short video. So now the next stage is we're building towards something that's much more immersive, and it's going to really feel like an internet that you're inside of, not just looking at. And it will be it's not that it's that everything today is going to stop and we're going to get there. There's going to be a whole continuum of different technologies. from your phone calls to, the videos, etc. But then also your AR, your VR, your Zoom calls, they'll all be stitched together. And that will make things really, I think, exciting in terms of how people are going to want to communicate. So I'm excited about it, and I'm excited about the things that, our two companies are going to do together as well.
No, that's so exciting to hear, Nicola. And this is such a journey your company is and was on. So really, I must say, it's such a dynamic that we can hear when you speak. So I cannot imagine how much it is when you're really in the forefront in your role. So this brings me to a question that I was thinking about as now Meta was growing, and I'm not sure how many employees you have, but maybe you can speak a bit of your company culture and also how you are ensuring a inclusive workforce, yeah, because you are now spread all over the world, and this is, I would say, a hugely important topic for all of us.
Yeah, and Tina, I totally agree with you. Today we're about 80,000 people. And I think, again, that similarities between the two companies, we both strongly believe that our strength lies in our diversity. And from a Meta perspective, we're prioritizing it today, yesterday, and tomorrow, and in every aspect of how we're building. Here's why. I mean, you know this as well as me. From a company perspective, we're serving today about half the world's population. We've got about 3.5 billion people that are coming onto our platforms every single month. And we want our workforce to be as varied as, the people that are using it. And so every single one of the people here is working on a good idea. We want the people here to be thinking about how they can do the very best work of their careers, and also how they can show up as the most authentic version of themselves. So, and again, I think about you guys from the fact that, you're in 186 markets, I think. You've got over 2,000 brands. And so if you don't have a diverse workforce, then you're going to be missing opportunities in order to really capture the best that you can offer to people all over the planet. So this is not a nice to have for either of us. It's an essential need to have. And the efforts that we make are really embedded in everything that we do, from how we go about recruiting people, where we have a diverse slate approach, to running the trainings that we have to make sure that people are aware of their own biases or their microaggressions, to the fact that we have internal advisory boards to ensure that we have diverse perspectives on the decision making at every level of the company. And we also, we set explicit goals for diversity in our workforce. We're a tech company. Data is at the heart of everything we do. And so Mark set out a handful of years ago the vision and the goal that we will have at least 50% of our workforce made up of women globally and underrepresented minorities in the US. And we've been publishing publicly how we've been doing every year since 2014. I am proud of the fact that every single year we have made progress. So where we are today, about a third of our senior women, our senior leaders are women, and that's creating like a really happy flywheel, because we're attracting more people, because people can look up at the company and say, yes, this is a company that is doing what it said. We do have senior women leading. And this flywheel that it creates is fantastic, because yes, then that means that some have left, some have gone on to run other companies, and that's good. So we've got people like Fiji Simon, who was she was the head of the Facebook app. She's now the CEO of Instacart. We've got a lady like Deb Liu, who created and founded Facebook Marketplace. She's now the CEO of Ancestry.com. So I'm proud that we've got an alumni like that that's now out there, because I know those women are now kind of fanning out to create their own influential networks. They're bringing other women along their way as well. And then it also speaks to the actual products that we're creating. And, I just talked about the metaverse a moment ago. We are building for inclusion right at the beginning as we're starting to build out for the metaverse. And that takes many different guises. And one of the most important areas is how you're physically going to show up, virtually going to show up in the metaverse. That's going to be about your avatar. And so, one of the things that we've done there already is that the avatars that you can create today have over, wait for this, Tina, a quintillion different versions. So that means that it's more representative of people's hair color, color of skin, body shapes, etc. And I'm not sure if we didn't have built diversity and inclusion right into the heart of everything we were doing, we would have ended up with a quintillion different versions. So there's lots that I could talk about here. You can hear I'm pretty passionate about it, but I think it's so important for the future of all companies to make sure that diversity is embedded into everything that we're doing.
Yes, and Nicola, thank you for sharing. I cannot more than agree. And just coming out of a Global Media Council we at Nestlé just hold here in Switzerland. And it was so great to see how people, it is a leadership team in the media function, yeah, how people from all over the world, from Japan and India and Europe and North America and Latin came together to work jointly on our priorities. And with the different backgrounds and the different experiences and the different people they stand for, still are bringing so rich workshopping and so rich experience together to make a really strong and exciting journey coming to life. Yeah, and I think here diversity is not just a hygiene; it is really a factor to build great teams, and with this to drive business results.
Oh, I totally agree. And as you were mentioning Japan, I just have to share that I had an orange Kit Kat just this week because there's an amazing sweet shop in New York called Economy Candy, and they bring in candies from all over the world and chocolates. And I saw the orange Kit Kat. I was like, oh. So I have to compliment Team Japan. I did buy a few of those, so thank you.
They have this huge variety over there. They have also a Kit Kat boutique where you can really
customize
yours. And now we saw in Europe a vegan version of Kit Kat, so you also need to try it out. Yeah, it's worth it. Yeah, so please continue with your Kit Kat tasting.
I love. Well, I'm going to have to try more of those, definitely.
Yeah, we will send you a few. Yeah.
Nicola, I'm going to hold you to that. Everybody heard you say that.
Nicola, I want to jump to a topic around our partnership. Yeah, so the two companies, Meta and Nestlé, they have joint business plans more than 1 decade. I still remember when they came into place in the early years, yeah, and how they have evolved and how the partnership has grown. This is what I want to talk a bit about. So how do you see this uniqueness of the partnership? How would you describe it? What are your thoughts about our partnership?
Yeah, so I would say it's special, and you are extremely valuable to us in terms of how we think about our partnership. And the fact that you said, our first joint business plan was launched in 2011. That was before I started. It was a year before Facebook was even a public company, if that helps to date things in terms of where the company was at that time. And it was all around, creating commercial and strategic opportunities for growing the Nestlé Group today and tomorrow. So I think it's fair to say that we've really grown together. But I think that the fact that you were kind of on board with us back in 2011 really speaks to who you are as a company. You're always at the forefront of innovation. You've got this entrepreneurial mindset, which is you're so close to consumers that you always know where consumers are and wanting to learn, and you're hungry to learn in terms of, how you can really get your messages out to the people that matter to you. So in terms of the partnership, day to day, it's really about collaboration on the marketing side of the business, where our technologies help you to really drive measurable impact on your brand business objectives. Obviously, about sales and, of course, giving you the very best return on ad spend. But results and good results don't happen in a vacuum. Yes, we've got good tools. Yes, you've always been wanting to, test and learn. But it's also, making sure you're at the forefront of new things as well. And so the fact that you're one of the very few companies that sit on our Global Client Council. And just to explain what that is, it's a very small, intimate group, if you like, an advisory board with some of the most dynamic, interesting, and exciting companies in the world, where we share everything that we're working on, new products, new initiatives. And here's the thing, you have always given us tough feedback. And actually, that's the thing that helps us to, make us better as a company, that we're making sure that we're delivering and creating products that are helping you to achieve the things that matter to you. You're also a customer of ours on Workplace, which is our all-in-one business communication platform. And we are really proud also that you have over 100,000 employees using it on a monthly basis across a whole variety of tasks. And I hope it helps to, provide helpful ways for all of you to connect together and also grow together as well. And then We also work with you on some other really important strategic initiatives beyond media as well. So we were a founding member of the Global Alliance for Youth. That's the alliance led by you to help youth unemployment all over the world. And that really resonates with us at Meta. And I'm really, really proud. That's something that I've led from the Meta side. Really proud to partner with you to be able to advance the cause. So overall, I would say, I think that together, because of the strength of the partnership, we help to make each other better. I think we hold each other accountable and to very, very high standards. And my hope is that the partnership will continue to thrive for very many years to come.
Yeah, thank you so much. I also remember the initial starting points when it was more or less for us to learn how to act in the digital world. Yeah. Whereas today we are much more experienced, and still there is to learn every day. So even for my colleagues that are really near in digital media, there's so much to learn with every session and every contact with you. Nicola, you were already pointing out a few of the strategic initiatives. So when we look back the last, maybe the recent years, what would you say, what was one of the key highlights where we as partners accomplished let's say, a high benefit, a high outcome, a high result, or even a project where you say, here we can be really proud of together? Do you have anything that comes up in your mind?
Yes, but like, what a question, Tina, because that's like choosing between your favorite children, isn't it? But I would pick up also on the fact that we started this over a decade ago with the spirit of learning and collaboration. And I think we're still in the world of learning, because the products that we have today are so, so different to the products that we had a decade ago. And yeah, in the early days, it was about really just trying to understand what the platforms were and how to measure ROI. So one of the things overall I'm proud of is that we are one of your top performing channels for delivering ROAS. But that's not what you asked, but I am very, very proud of that. And we only get that sort of thing when we really engage deeply together. But you asked for some favorites, so here goes. I'm thinking about some of the work from Spain. So Team Spain, the La Lechera campaign, which was all about the veggie product and driving awareness for it, driving trial, which was all about bringing recipe life, inspiration to life across video ads for feed and stories, and also using our reach and frequency tool to be able to plan the audiences whilst also managing frequency as well. Kantar did a whole review of it, and they showed that the campaign was particularly effective to expand household penetration, and that 80% of the campaign sales that were driven by Meta came from new buyers. So I love stories like that. I love also examples like the work with San Pellegrino, using Facebook groups to advance economic opportunities during the pandemic on behalf of young chefs. That was something that was really exciting to see. And then we already talked about Kit Kat Orange, but actually Kit Kat leveraging Messenger to promote, to be able to promote mental health awareness in Australia, I thought was a wonderful thing to see. And what I think it does here is really unlocks a better future for Nestlé customers, also for Nestlé, and actually for the world as well. So just a few, but there's many, many more.
Yeah, thank you so much. I know this was a tough question. I want to come back to one of the performance criteria you just mentioned. It was ROAS, so the return on advertising spend. This is very important to us at Nestlé. We are very strongly driving performance. We need to make every dollar or every Swiss franc we spend really working. Would you say this journey on contributing on ROAS on your platforms will continue? I mean, there's a lot of change going on in the industry, on privacy, on consumer behavior, on media consumption. Is there any, let's say, forecast or ambition that you could share on that with me?
Yeah, so we want to absolutely ensure that that every dollar, pound, peso, any currency that you're in, that you are spending with us, that we are giving you the very best return. That's where we start. That's our North Star. And yes, with the background of what where regulation is changing, we're also changing as well. And what we're doing is actually recreating our whole platform to make sure that privacy is baked in from the absolute get-go. And so we're creating privacy enhanced technologies in order to ensure that we're continuing to give you, the opportunities to target, but to do it in a more data reduced way. And that's a path that we're on. That's a path over the next handful of years that we're doing it. But everything that I'm seeing from the early work in this area, I'm incredibly excited about, because we're keeping the North Star as making sure that we can give you the very best RAS that is out there.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it was important to me to have that covered here.
Tina, it's always been important to you, and it's important to us, right?
Yes, this is also what we both have joined since the beginning. Yeah. Now, that brings me to the embracing of new digital tools. Yeah, if you compare Nestlé with the other advertisers or the other companies you work with, how would you see us here? Are we leading the industry, following the industry? What can we do better? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think I think there's a clue in the nature of the conversation and the journey over the decade that we've been on, that you've always been an early adopter of our newest technologies. You're always open to exploring new paths in terms of how to deliver brand growth. And being fast to test, being fast to learn, I think that's a strategic advantage for you. And, I've already talked a little bit about the metaverse. I think VR is really going to play an important role. And we're already seeing you once again leading in order to drive business outcomes, and sometimes in different areas. So there's a great example of Purina in the US creating a whole VR tool of one of its factories in order to train your sales employees about the production process, and also about the very high quality that you have when it comes to your food standards and the safety there as well. So what does that mean? That means that your employees now can put on a Oculus Quest device, a headset, and you can have this whole learning experience. And that's fantastic, because it's safer, it's less distracting, and of course it's much more cost effective than having all those in-person tours where people would have to travel, have to move, get to the factory, get the briefing. Well, your teams have already told us that this VR experience alone is saving Purina about $100,000 a year. You start to think about how you could be moving that out across different brands, different sales employees. That starts to come to some very significant savings. Not to also talk about, the reduction in impact on carbon, because you're not having to have so many people traveling in different ways in different places as well. So I get that's a win-win, but we're still just right at the beginning of starting to experiment with all these different things in the metaverse as well.
Yeah, I believe this is really a starting point. And I personally was also very excited when we had a few weeks ago your teams here in the center in Vevey also exploring jointly with group of colleagues on Oculus and the different opportunity areas, for example, as you mentioned, training, education, but also how could the meeting room of the future virtually look like, that we can enter through AR, VR. It's very different and feels much closer than what we have today.
You're right, Tina. And one of the things that I'm now doing with my leadership team is that we do we make sure that we have one meeting a week that we do in the virtual workplace, where we all put our goggles on, because we're all coming in from all around the world. And it's changing all the time. So it's making sure that we're training ourselves, that we're learning. We're obviously dog fooding our own products. So we're feeding back in where things could be improved and where things can be better. And because it is moving so fast, if I think back to when we started doing this over a year, longer than a year ago, the product has changed so much. So this is a really good discipline for us as well.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think these kind of products you need to experience. Yeah, if you don't use that, you will never, let's say, fully get the opportunities, and you will not be able to be excited about it. Yeah, no.
You are so right. I know that there's still marketeers out there that haven't tried some of our products, and I just think that's really difficult. Like, how do you know if you're creating really strong campaigns? I'm not saying you have to use the products all the time, but to just be in them somewhat, to be able to, use the apps, understand what it means to be connected with people in those ways, which is different. I think it gives you a totally different feeling.
Yeah, I fully agree. Nicola, I want to change the topic a bit into career and also aspiration. So if you could give our audience that are much younger than I am, one piece of advice for building their career, for aspiring marketeers to learn or to aim for, what would that be?
Well, I'd start off by saying, what a magnificent time to be a marketeer, because honestly, I don't think it's ever been better, because there's so many products now There's so many new, I remember when I started out, you would make like 1 or 2 campaigns a year. And now you're making so many different campaigns every day, and the technology is changing all the time. It almost feels like you're in a sweet shop, right? With all these different things to do. And I think, from an advice perspective, I think it speaks to the fact that just stay hungry and be open and curious, because your job more than anything is to understand your audiences. You've got to be really curious about people. You've got to think about their stories, their lives, their experiences. And for me, I mean, I love people. I always have, and everybody is interesting. Everybody's got something that makes them who they are, and how you can connect with them is one thing. I know you asked me for one, but I've got a few, Tina. I can't help it, so go and indulge me if I can. I would also pick up on some of the things we were just talking about around just test and learn stuff. I do think it's an area where Nestlé is leading the way, and I think the best marketers do that as well. Test and learn, because marketing is very much it is a science, but it's also an art as well. And so I would just say to people, don't be afraid to try new things. Don't be afraid to put your hand up and go, that didn't work, but what are the learnings that we can take from them? And then just go for it. Really double down on the things that are working. And then the final one I would speak to is around the language of the boardroom. I think this is really important, that marketeers do understand the language of the boardroom from early on. Because I saw a survey recently that said half of all marketing actually doesn't sit with the CMO. And a lot of it is about how you influence and work with others and who you're pitching to. And you're often pitching for budgets. And you're pitching for budgets internally, but as you become more senior in your career as well, it's also about the people that are, controlling the purse strings, either higher up inside or ultimately external to the shareholders as well. So, this was said to me pretty recently by a pretty senior CMO, that if they could have gone back earlier in their career, they'd have learned the language of the boardroom earlier. And so I thought that was really good advice as well.
No, thank you. I think that's really important. And when we speak about the boardroom, I would say our board and our senior leaders, they are also interested in understanding how we can deliver growth, how we can grow our brands. And here at Nestlé, as you know, we have the brand building the Nestlé way, guiding our journeys on the brands. So how would you advise our marketeers to understanding how they can drive brand growth or brand building through your technologies?
Okay, so the answer is yes, you can. And there's lots of different ways. So if I start with the macro point, can you build a brand on Meta? The answer is a great big yes. We recently released a study with 3 different external measurement companies looking into this. And I'm not going to go too much into the weeds on it, but what they found was that Meta's platforms drive a 52% higher total ROI than the average channel. And that we're one of the very top channels for both short and long-term growth. So how is that? Why is that? It starts with the fact that, there's over 3.5 billion people that are connecting with all vast ecosystems of their favorite people and groups and creators and businesses and non-profits. And we've got every single community in between. And when you think about brand building as a question overall, it's really about thinking about where people's attention's going and where we find them. I've got my phone here for years. It's been on this. And we've been doing this a lot. But now we're making the shift now to more immersive mediums as well. So I think it starts with thinking about what's the message that you want to send, and then identify which of the platforms or tools that are best suited to getting it out. So how do you navigate? Because there's a lot going on, across all of our different products, whether it's feed, whether it's Instagram or Facebook, whether it's messaging, whether it's, videos or stories, reels. And so we offer a variety of different things to be able to help you with your amazing stories to share. So there's a program called Blueprint, which is a course that you can take, which can give you digital skills where you get certified as well. And that actually, I think, is, sets you apart. We see it with lots of people have it on LinkedIn. I've done the courses myself. And there's a number of different ones. There's some very basic early entry ones, all the way through to very high professional level in things like media planning, buying, there's creative. That's one. I tell you one that we encourage all of our people internally to do, which is to work with a small business and try advertising on their behalf, which means that you actually go into our ads manager, you understand how to do the targeting, you understand how to do the different options for how you buy ads on our platform. So that's a really good tip. And those small businesses always really, really appreciate it. And then we have a whole Meta for Business hub, and there's loads of fantastic resources and case studies there as well. So yeah, there's loads of different ways. Some of the masters of our campuses today, of course, are creators as well. And one of the things that I make sure that I do is to follow different creators because they're some of the most innovative people in how they tell stories on our platforms today.
Yeah, and I think this is an advice that all our marketeers or people that want to join Nestlé, that they could leverage to learn on the platform, really in the practicality, how platforms and communication works. Also for us, as we are building brands across platforms, it's very important to understand the role of your platforms within a integrated media or communication plan, how they play together with other channels, with other technologies, and also which role each platform or each piece of advertisement has. And as you mentioned at the beginning, the topic of attention, I would say, is increasingly important to us, to ensure in this overloaded world of consumers and people out there that our messages and our brands can be brought to attention in the different audiences. So I think this is the challenge for marketeers today and in the future even more. So I want to go back a bit to this topic of career, and maybe also, Nicola, to your own very extraordinary career. Was there a role model behind you that you were looking at when you started your career? Is there any success habit or anything you can share with our audience today? What made you so successful?
So I've been very blessed my whole life to have people that I can look up to and that I've been able to learn from. I mentioned that I grew up in Manchester. The early days, it was definitely my mom and my grandma. Both of them were working and they worked really hard, and I learned a huge amount from them. My mom only recently retired. She's in her 70s now, but she was running a business up until COVID, a big party planning and catering business. So definitely lots of early lessons from them. Couple when I went through key kind of big career moves. So the first agency I was there for 12 years, and after 12 years I moved to take on a leadership role at Grey in London. And I sought out the advice of an amazing lady there at the time who was in the advertising industry in the UK called Stevie Spring. And I literally just sent her a message to say, would she mind meeting with me? I would love to pick her brains. And she said yes. And I told her about how I was doing this change, and I asked her for her advice. And she gave me two brilliant bits of advice. One was that when you're in a leadership position, don't forget that people watch your body language as much as they watch what you're saying. And so if you're going, oh, this is all great, nobody's going to believe you. Whereas if you go, this is all great, like you can that was good advice to think through. And she said that people watch everything that you're doing. And then she also gave me a funny bit of advice, but it's fantastic advice, which she said, look, sometimes it can all feel a little bit too much, and you can feel like you're starting to cry. I don't know if there's anybody else listening today that's ever felt like that. I have plenty of times. She said, best bit of advice is that you can't cry and whistle. That's my piece of advice. Comes from Stevie Spring. That if you think you're about to burst out crying, whistle. I promise you it works. You do look a bit strange, but then it stops like all the mascara running and the red nose and all the rest of it. So it's good advice. And then, look, I've been unbelievably blessed to have worked with Sheryl Sandberg, our COO, for nearly a decade. And one of the best bits of advice she gives is around feedback, and she gives feedback very quick. So you finish a meeting, we finish always 5 minutes early. So if the meeting's an hour, you do a 55-minute meeting. So you can take 5 minutes at the end of the meeting to debrief, to give each other feedback, and then move on. And what I learned from that is sometimes, in big companies, that you always have either a half-year review or quarterly review, and why wait? If you've got feedback, good and bad, get it out, because then people can learn, and it doesn't kind of build up and make it into a bigger thing. And then, well, I learn from my children. I have 4 children. I learn from my children, and I learn from my team every single day.
Yeah. So that's I would say very Yeah, very impressive. Yeah, also thank you for sharing these personal, personal advice. Um, I had one thought while you were speaking on challenges. Yeah, personal question now. Is there anything what you could share with us? I mean, we know in your life you also had challenges. You recently spoke about one on health. Is there a bit of advice, or how did you go through these challenging times that were behind you now?
Yeah. So I have spoken about this publicly. So in 2016, I was diagnosed with a blood cancer called follicular lymphoma. It's an incurable non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. I had treatment in 2018, which was good, and I'm now in and successful. I'm now in a form of remission, but it's an incurable cancer in that it still exists on a microscopic level, and so it will come back at some point. But the doctors don't know when, and it's a cancer that hasn't had a lot of research or funding, and so most people listening will have touch cancer in their lives in some way with a friend or a family member. 1 in 2, 3 of us will get it at some point. I did not expect to get it at 45. I didn't feel ill. And so many learnings from this one. The first weekend I was diagnosed was without question the worst weekend of my life, because you catastrophize, you go through every worst thing that could possibly happen. That's not a good thing to do. It's an easy thing to say, but difficult to do. Telling the children was very, very challenging. And then I thought about, with such a thing, what could I do? And so about 2 years ago, I decided, just before the pandemic, that I would set up a foundation to try and find a cure for this cancer. We already had a Facebook group called Living with Follicular Lymphoma, where we almost have 10,000 people, which is now the largest gathering of follicular lymphoma patients that's ever existed. And I'm now working on a foundation to find a cure. I'm in this state now where the doctors monitor me, and they watch. It's called watching and waiting. It's actually a thing. Patients call it watch and worry. And I'm trying just to now take things one day at a time. I control the things that I can control. When it comes to the charity, it's such a big, audacious goal. So I break things down into milestones that can be achieved. And then I try more than anything to put the negative voices, that come in your head, and not just with a diagnosis like this. I think we all probably have those voices that make us doubt ourselves or make us think bad things about what might happen, or and I just try and put those away, because I'm so grateful for the fact that I have had a treatment that was successful. I'm grateful for every single day that I have, and I'm going to do my best to make sure I live my life well. And if I can help other people that have the same condition, then I'm going to give it my best shot. So that's some of my thinking.
Yeah. No, thank you so much, Nicola, for sharing. I think it's a very emotional and very serious conversation we just started and had. So I would wish you, on behalf of all of us, really the best health for you, your own, but also for everyone in your network. Yeah, for everyone in your charity that you now want to try with your foundation. So really, all the best in those different regards. Yeah. So thank you very much for sharing that. And I'm with you. Yeah, all of us go through difficult times. Yeah, and I'm sure in our audience there are individuals that have either unhealth or lost a parent or lost a partner or a child. Yeah, very difficult times, and I think it gives hope to hear from leaders like you also how they deal with it, and how you deal with your own situation and challenges. So thank you so much.
No, you're right, Tina, and I think that's why it's so important that we create cultures within our workforces where people can show up with authenticity, that people can share. A lot of people said to me, "Why did you tell this story? Why were you so public?" Because there's not many senior business people that have been so public about an illness. And I did because first of all, I don't know any other way to be. I've always been very open. But I also thought about the fact that if I was trying to carry this and not let anybody know at work what was sometimes going on in my head, I think it would have put more pressure and more stress on me. And then I thought back to, the people that work with me, and I was like, I don't want to put that extra pressure on people when they're going through difficult times. I want people to be able to have honest conversations with me, because then I can support them better. Then I can be a better manager as well. So it
Yes,
was
and
important.
it is also an empathy that you build, on your side, on everyone in your team or surrounding you. It is more clearer what's going on with the other person, and then everyone can support or help or link better, and that helps also the work we do, and I mean the business we are responsible for, but also on the private side of life. No, thank you so much. I'm coming to my final question, Nicola. When I look at you with all what you shared today, I'm thinking about this must be a 24/7 life. But I'm sure you have time to relax, to rest. But what keeps you awake at night? Is there anything where you would say this is so is making me so nervous, or is so of keeping me so awake that I cannot rest? Is there anything?
So actually, I sleep really well, and I'm a lover of the Aura Ring, and this monitors how well you sleep. It's fantastic, but that's not really what you're what you're talking about. But I do, somebody told me sleep was like a weapon, and so if you're not sleeping, I think that's something that really needs addressing. But in terms of what I think about constantly, I think about my team. I think about our people. I think about, am I focused enough on helping them to develop? Am I clear enough on the expectations that we have? Am I giving enough opportunities for people to be able to grow and develop? Those are the things that I think about, from a work perspective, and then from a family perspective. Well, I'm just always, making sure that the family's all right, that everybody is in a good place, and that that I'm being a good enough mom, wife, daughter, sister, that I can be, because there's nothing more important than family.
Yeah, I'm sure you are. So thank you so much, Nicola, for the whole interview today, for your time. And I'm sending all our thanks on behalf of Nestlé and the audience with us today to you, to New York. Stay strong, but also stay so empathic and authentic. I love you for that, and we will hopefully meet soon in person again. So thank you very much.
I hope so. Thank you. And again, thank you to everybody for having me here today. I really appreciate it.